Hey guys, Corey from Aquarium Co-op. Today I'm going to try something new, starting a new series called One Tank at a Time. And it's kind of stems from the live stream. I get asked so often, what should I do with this tank? And so now I want to go through logic and actually setting up a tank, how I do it, things like that. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this 40-gallon breeder tank. It's, in the fish room obviously. You've probably seen states of it in super bad condition where it was blue-green algae just everywhere you could see. We've cured that. We used some erythromycin to do that. And now we've got these, these Velifera mollies that I really want to keep growing out. They're growing each day, but I know it's only a matter of time. Give it another, 2 months or so, they're going to start producing fry for me. And so what I want to do is I want to get this tank set up. I also want to make it look better. I've been saying that, well, I'll make all the tanks look better once, once I'm done building the fish room. But it's taking forever to build the fish room, and so I'm going to get started on, this tank today. Maybe do another tank the next day. I don't know how it's going to go yet, but what I do know is this: I want this to be a fully planted tank. I want it to be beneficial for the fish that I'm trying to keep in there. And we've already got some plants laying in there, but those plants might have been laying there for 3 months now. And I don't even know what plants they are, honestly. They look like lucins, cryptlucins. And so let's talk about what this tank needs to do. So being that they're mollies, they want really hard water and they want high pH. They're also going to eat a ton. We're going to have to change a lot of water in here also. When when those fish start getting 4 inches, a lot of water in here is going to have to change. So I need plants that can endure the higher pH, they can also endure the hardness, and then don't feed out of the water column, because if we're changing a lot of water in here, we're going to strip out all the nutrients. So my plan is this: I'm going to use all crushed coral for the substrate. That should raise my pH. I'll have to add some minerals, with either some limestone or some wonder shells. I'll probably use wonder shells every once in a while. And then I'm going to use lots of root tabs to mineralize that crushed coral, basically, put a lot of nutrients in there until the fish poop enough to really start helping that out. Once the gravel's well established and dirty, it'll fuel these cryptocorns, because cryptocorns are root feeders. Now, we're going to need like 2 inches of gravel. Got to rinse that because crushed coral's real dirty. Gonna rinse that, get that started. I'm gonna vacuum out some of this loose debris. I could totally leave it too. It would just help seed that part of the gravel. But I want to do an overall, an overall overhaul, if you will. I'm going to run low light. So up here we've got a Stingray. It's a low light fixture, but that's all I'm gonna need for Crypts because they are low light. I might even get around to washing the cover here. Like, the cover's dirty and blocking light for sure. And I'll probably always run this light back here so that way I can open and close the lid, and a central located light, I think just works better for this tank. But you can see all the algae on here. Hopefully we're going to get rid of that. We're going to take out this piece of decor that was just in there for when I had some different plants and stuff, or not plants, but when I had different fish in there. So I'm going to get started, and I'm going to chime in throughout the process and just kind of show you how it goes. Hopefully it won't take all day, but the reality is, why am I doing this today? Because it's a horrible day outside. Look at outside. It's all rainy, and nothing motivates me more to play in a fish tank than it being rainy and bad outside. So I'm going to get started. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. Let me know down in the comments, is this something you think is going to be awesome, or is this going to be lame? It's a whole video dedicated to one tank, but hopefully we take it from nothing to something decent, and then we get to chime in on it, let's say 2 months down the road and go, wow, that actually panned out. That's pretty good. So I'm getting started. I got a significant portion of the waste taken out. The next thing I'm going to do is clean the sponge filter, and I kind of want to reset that because I don't clean them very often, but I figure while I'm doing this major overhaul, I should. So when it comes to cleaning a sponge filter, the way I like to do it is I grab a fish bag or a Ziploc bag, and I'm going to get in there and I'm going to get under it and grab that thing out of there, because if I just go and grab it and pick it up, the minute I pick it up, a bunch of gunk's going to fall right out of it, and it's going to destroy this tank. Not that this tank looks great by any means yet, but we don't want to make it worse, so especially if it was your display tank. So here's what we do. We get in there, You get your bag, and you get some water in there. And now you go under the sponge, and the goal is to get that thing in there before you lift it up. And it can be a little bit hard. This is a big sponge in here. I'm doing a bad job while on camera, but I've minimized the damage, basically, from taking the sponge filter out. Now I can lift the top off. I've got my Never Clog Air Stone going in there. But now you've got a bag basically filled with gunk. You're going to take it apart so it's just a sponge in there. So, and you always look in the bottom, make sure there's not a bunch of gunk in there. And now, what you're going to do is kind of wring the sponge out in there and make just the grossest chocolate milk water you've ever seen. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment. And you should be doing this while you do maintenance like I'm doing right here, like your tank maintenance, like your water changes, stuff like that. You know, so this is just the first pass. So now I've taken the sponge out. We've got water this brown. I mean, that's chocolate milk right there. You pour it into a bucket or something like that. Because this sponge is not clean yet. So you put it back in here. You're going to grab some more water from your tank. And the reason why you use tank water is you'll preserve all the bacteria. Now, some places do have low chlorine levels in their water and can get away with taking it to the sink. Now, I've done that in the past too, and it works fine for me, but my logic is this. Why not take water out of your aquarium, clean your sponge, put fresh water back in? It's a boost for the fish, and you're using less water. Like, let's say you're going to change water anyway, you might as well reuse this water as much as you can. So, to me, it's a win-win. You know, and so this is the second pass. You know, so now water's brown, but not as brown, you know. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show you it getting absolutely clean here on camera because I never clean them super clean. I just want to knock most of the debris out of them. And so now we've got, you know, I usually do it about 3 times. Sometimes 4 if it's like really bad or something, but by the 3rd time, and I'll show you here, I'm wringing it out. And maybe I should get up on a stool here so you can see how I wring it out, but basically, you know, you're just trying to get debris out of it. And so that was the 3rd one. I'll put this back in here now. You can see, yeah, there's some debris in there, but I'm not sure you can get it much cleaner than that. Like, the water's pretty clear. Now the best thing you could do would be pour all of that water into your favorite houseplant or garden outside or something, because all that water is filled with nitrogen, and that's going to grow plants really well. So now we just set it back up, and now you've serviced, you know, the sponge filter, which is a good thing. And you want to do that, you know, maybe once a month or something like that. You should be doing regular maintenance on your tank anyway. But now I've reset this tank so that it's ready to go another length of time. So now I'm going to go ahead and get to actually rinsing gravel, more crushed coral to put in here. Alright, so I've been rinsing the substrate. I've got to rinse some more, obviously. Well, not obviously yet, I got to test it. But the best way you can introduce substrate to a tank with fish in it is to use like a little Tupperware and get it full and then lower it down into the water. That's going to leave, you know, the least amount of residue, and then you can kind of pour it where you need it to be poured. And you know, there's obviously going to be some clouding here because I'm using crushed coral, but it's going to clear up, you know, relatively fast, a day or 2 at most, really. But if I just dump this in, it's really going to make a mess. So we're doing it slow and steady. So I'm going to go ahead and keep getting all the gravel added in, and when I've got that done, we'll show you, you know, more things like planting and root tabs and things like that. Alright, so I've got my crushed coral in there. It's about 30 pounds. Water's super milky. I'm going to do a water change, but first what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape algae. And it's because the algae is super visible against the white background of the crushed coral. So the other reason is once I knock all this algae off, it's going to be in the water. May as well water change it out while I'm at it. Now, I'm probably not going to touch much algae on the sides or back, mostly just this front, because I actually like algae and it's beneficial. So But that's the next step I go through when setting up an aquarium. So now what I'm doing is I've got water flowing in. Hopefully my overflow is going to keep up with it, and basically I'm going to keep working as we're changing water and stuff like that. Now normally you would just drain this water down really low and then fill it back up. This is kind of a time thing, and I already have hundreds of gallons of water already at the right temperature and aerated and things like that. So, and plus I'm going to kick up a little bit more as I'm planting, where normally, you know, I wouldn't need to show it on camera, so I'd kick up everything, plant it all, then do the big water change. But I want to get this a little more clear so that you guys can see it also as I'm planting. Alright, so I'm ready to start planting. We're going to start with the lucens here. And, you know, I'm going to use some planting tweezers. What these do is when you put roots down in, you can put them at a curve and they get held in a lot better. Now, I highly recommend a pair of curved tweezers if you don't have some already and you're doing planted tanks. Now, in my store, I sell the Aquavitra line. This can only be sold in stores, so I can't sell them to you guys online. I'm working on either getting my own brand made of aquarium co-op tweezers or something like that, but you know, I'm in a contract with CChem that I can't sell Aquavitra products online. So support your local stores, go get some, and you know, at $15 they seem like, oh, are those really that good? But if you're buying a lot of plants, you're going to plant a lot of them, they work amazing. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to set this up to the side. We won't use the tweezers quite yet, but we are going to grab a plant here. And if you're getting a potted plant, which is you know, what I'm starting out with here. Now these have been laying on their sides, so they're orientated kind of incorrectly, but we're going to pull off the pot itself. So that comes off. And then you're surrounded by rock wool. Now this rock wool you want to pull off as well, and it might have a little dirt in there or whatever. You know, it's got nutrients to keep these alive while they're being grown at a farm. And so your goal is to get as much of this off as you can, which we're going to do that here. And it only takes a couple seconds. Don't spend all day doing it. It's not that important. But then you kind of, as you're pulling it apart here, you're going to see that it's almost like its own little plants, right? So like there's a plant, and then you kind of keep pulling on it like, okay, so there's maybe 2 or 3 more plants, and we're just going to plant all these. Now Crypt lucens stays relatively short, and so we're going to want to plant this towards the front, and we're just going to use all these roots to do that. So we're just going to go ahead, and what I do is once I get them pulled apart, I kind of just drop them in there. Yeah, and they're going to let some more gunk out, and this is a lot of times why I will you know, do the water change afterwards, but we're clear enough now that I can actually show you how to do it. And what we do is we grab our tweezers, and we're going to grab some roots here. Here's a plant, and you can see just one plant. Now let me zoom in here for you. You won't be able to see me anymore. But you know, we've got one plant. If I tilt the camera down, after I grab that plant again, maybe we want some right here. So we're going to go ahead and grab this, and yeah, that's one plant planted. If I grab this one right here, you kind of get it in there. See, I made too big of a hole, so that's why you don't use fingers. Is this, you know, you can basically bury it and then come back and tug it up a little bit when they don't have long roots. I'll keep grabbing pieces of gravel there. But there we go. So yeah, that works pretty good. And I'm going to continue to do that with this plant. We'll chime in on other plants. Alright, so now I've got all my Crypt lucens that I had planted. It was all potted. You can see the aftermath here. And all those have been sitting, so they'd already melted down and come back. Now, cryptocorns are notorious for melting, so these still might melt because I've changed what they were in. They were in a pot, now they're in the gravel. So you can kind of do that process ahead of time, which this is the biggest problem why I don't currently sell crypts online, and I might start, but people buy them and then they die or melt back and they go, oh, they throw them away. But the reality is you need to kind of convert them. And so, like in this tank for a few months, they've just been sitting here floating. And this is Crypt lucens, and there's a little bit of Crypt red wendeti in here. And they've just been sitting here floating. And, you know, so now these are all underwater grown leaves, and we're going to plant those as well. And then I've got some Crypt Florida Sunset in here. That's what this is. And then I've also got some Ponderfolia, I believe, as well. And some other things in there. But we're going to basically plant that as well. So that's where the other plants are coming from. They've just been sitting in my tanks floating, converting. Now, realize this tank's gonna look sparse, but that's how I save money, is like this was 3 pots worth. And yes, would it look better if I had put 10 pots worth of plants right up front? Yes, but in 2-3 months time, it's gonna look amazing anyway, and you'll end up cutting stuff back out. Now, I don't worry too much when I'm planting about how much the roots are covered, or if the plant's laying sideways. Like, the plants themselves are gonna fix all that for me. Mostly, I just want them to be held down, and then if the fish don't pick them, I want to replant them. That's really what I'm worried about, is replanting, because I don't want to do that 10 times, so I want to make sure I have enough substrate, and you know, it's a little bit thinner up front, a little bit thicker in back, because I like it to be low in the front. But now I'm going to start planting other crypts, and all we're doing here is crypts. And I'll kind of let you see how that looks when I'm done. So here we have one of the first Florida sunset crypts. Might also be a bronze, I'm not even sure, it's been so long, but some of the leaves aren't healthy, like, because they just, as I was taking out of the tank, they got crushed. So I just pulled those couple leaves off. We've got nice roots here that we're going to be able to plant, and in general it's going to be a plant that thrives long term. So I'm going to start planting these, and then after I plant them, I'm going to show you how we put in root tabs, and then it's a waiting game mostly. So here's some Crypt lutea. And this one I am going to be putting on the website, I believe, and at least try it out. I think it's going to ship well. I mean, I know it'll ship well, it's just whether people will freak out when it starts melting in their climate or not. And I'll really try to emphasize that will happen, but don't freak out about it. We're going to put all these ones kind of in the right-hand side. And what I've done is kind of low-lying crypts up front, some reds and bronzes kind of in the back left corner, and then the front right corner is going to be lutea. This is not an aquascaping tutorial or anything like that by any means. I'm a guy that usually just wants lots of plants, and I want them to be healthy, and it look good, but I'm not going to spend all day adding rocks and wood. In fact, it's all plants. That's my favorite way. I like jungle style tanks. So going to continue to work on this. So I want to teach you guys that crypts spread by runner. And so we've got too many plants in my hand here, but we got this big main plant here, right? Okay, we can see that. Then we've got its root structure here, and I believe this is called the corn. And then through this root here is the new little baby plant. Now that would travel under your gravel and just go bing, here's another crypt. It does it slowly, but also they're super easy to grow and low light. That's why everyone loves them. But since I saw that while I had it out of the gravel and stuff, I thought I'd show it off. But back to work for me. Alright, so now we're at the density at which I'm going to plant it today. It's relatively sparse, but I want to show you guys how it might fill in as opposed to spending $500 and, filling this thing up. I think this was done for, I think I could do it with 10 or 12 pots, so we're under $100 for sure. And, yeah, I'm going to have to use root tabs and stuff like that, but right now what I'm doing is change a little more water. I want to get some of the leaves and stuff that have come off during planting up and out of this water column and clean it up in general. There's a few little baby plants and stuff like that, but yeah, so now we're going to focus on putting root tabs, and what we're going to do is we're going to put root tabs under most of the big ones, and I tend to do lots of root tabs at the beginning and then very few. Like I might put one root tab for that entire section in a month or two. But right now I want to make sure, because this is brand new virgin gravel, that I really put a lot of fertilizer or nutrients into it. Now if your tank has already been set up and has lots of fish poop and stuff like that, you're going to be a leg up compared to me right now. But especially all these big ones are going to get it, and I'll come through here and put one kind of between these, so once the roots spread out, it'll do okay. Now don't worry, like my goal is if half of these root and do well, it'll fill out the tank in 6 months and look amazing. If they all do well, great. But people focus like, oh no, that one's dying. Oh, look at your tank overall and see how it's doing. That's the important part. But I'm going to go ahead and put this back on the tripod and show you root tabs and show you how I play. So here we go. We've got root tabs. This is a 40 pack. You just open it up, and you're going to be faced with something like this. And they just look like little black tabs. And they're just like if you were to use it in a houseplant or something like that. Let me get a couple out here. But they've just got a ton of nutrients in them, and you're going to put that down in the roots. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to stop this water so I don't overflow when I plant. Right. So, got my tweezers, and now I've got my root tab. The most important part with the root tab is that you get it all the way under the gravel. If this sits up on top anywhere, it's going to put a lot of nutrients into the water, could cause an algae bloom. Also, it's going to dissolve and give off this black muck, and it's going to cover all your plants. It's going to be a real pain to clean back up. So we want to make sure we plant it right the first time. And so we're just going to put it in the water here. It doesn't dissolve instantly or anything like that, so don't worry. But let's say I needed to plant under this plant right here. We're going to zoom in. And we're going to move the camera a little bit. But that plant right there, basically this plant, you know, that's this big crypt. We're just going to put it right underneath the roots and do a little bit of cover up and make sure it's under there. And that's one planted. Now I'm going to plant probably 20 of these in here, maybe a few more. But every big plant's going to get one. We're going to put one, like I might put one in the group of these 4 plants, and then one right here and one right here. Basically every 6 inches there's plants, there should be a root tab. Now if there's lots of plants, put, you know, a root tab under each one or something like that, or if you have extras, but that's the way I do it. And I'm going to go ahead and do that process. So the next thing I'm going to do is clean this top. The glass top, you know, is going to block a lot of light if I don't clean it. It's dirty, and most times we don't clean it very often, and so I'm going to clean this to make sure I get the maximum amount of light to the new plants I just planted. It just makes sense to me. And, you know, you should do this every, you know, well, as often as you can, really, but every 6 months to a year, really make sure that it doesn't build up. So I'm going to go do that right now. So I've got the top cleaned, looking good. You can see through it again. That's good for light. I got my auto feeder set up with micro pellet food. And, you know, that's just going to auto feed these guys for me because, you know, we set the tank up for the fish. Yeah, we're doing plants, but the goal is to breed these Velifera mollies, and we want to keep them well fed. And so, yeah, so here's the final look. Remember this look, because this look, you know, we're going to chime back to this in, you know, maybe a month or two, and you go, wow, that actually turned out pretty good. So, if you guys like seeing this kind of style of video, let me know down in the comments. If you don't, let me know down in the comments. I'm not sure. You know, what I do know is I need to do this anyway, and so whether I film it or not, it's up to you guys. So, thanks for watching. Check out the next video. We've got, you know, live streams on Sundays. We got videos on Friday and Wednesdays. I answer lots of questions. Crypts should be on the website, hopefully soon, if it's not by the time I launch this video. But again, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.